A huge 7 days in Arsenal season, which Arsenal fans are calling make or break. And is the entire Tottenham fan base about to be even more divided than it is if Tottenham do not get 3 points in this North London derby? It is a highly anticipated fixture every single year, but now even more is riding on it. Tottenham come off the back of a defeat to Newcastle, and Arsenal come off the back of a draw against Brighton, and Arsenal have a huge 7 days ahead of them. Manchester City is the next Premier League game after Spurs, and in between the sandwich is a fixture to Italy for Atalanta, which are the remaining Europa League champions. So that's going to be an interesting game. If you're new to the channel, please do go down, drop that like if you haven't already and you're enjoying the content. And please, if you want to enjoy this journey with me, hit that subscribe button. We are closing in on 23,000 subscribers. Your support would be greatly appreciated. Now, tomorrow, we're recording this just after we're in between the Aston Villa game, and somehow they've mounted a comeback from being 2-0 down from Everton. They're now winning. We saw a shock result from Nottingham Forest winning away at Liverpool. And it just goes to show you how competitive the Premier League can be at times. But I want to start with Arsenal as they are the visitors. And then we'll speak about the ins and outs of what rides on this from a Tottenham perspective and how divided and how emotional our fan base can be at times. So drop a like and subscribe and strap yourself in. Make sure you watch the video the whole way through because that watch time is incredibly important. Now, Arsenal. A lot of their fan base will feel somewhat hard done by drawing against Brighton. In the rules of the game, it is a red card. From a fan's perspective, it's a completely different argument. Spurs, Atalanta, and Manchester City. You look after that, I think they should comfortably win their next 2 league games, Leicester and Southampton. I think they comfortably dispatch, as well as Bolton. PSG will be an interesting test for them. From a Tottenham fan perspective, I think there is more pressure on Arsenal going into this game than there is from a Tottenham perspective because Arsenal are the better team. They're further along their journey. They're at the point of where they are competing for league titles. They've got a better defense. They are the fan base is a lot more there's a lot more togetherness. They're a lot more unified. There are, Standard FC will be saying Arteta has to get sacked and whatever. But from an Arsenal perspective, if they were to lose this game, from an Arsenal fan perspective, Manchester City is absolutely everything. From a Tottenham perspective, I look at these games and I think Arsenal should be beating Atalanta, Leicester, and Bolton. With regards to this game, from an Arsenal perspective, if they lose, you're talking 5 points they would be behind Manchester City after game week 4. It then can get even worse from an Arsenal perspective because they then play Manchester City next, and there could be an 8-point swing. Now, Arsenal will go into this game confident. They will go into this game, even with the injuries they've got, they should still feel they have enough to dispatch of Spurs. Now, looking at this from the lens we're trying to look for to give a balanced view, I think Tottenham will get a lot of chances tomorrow. Arsenal have a very good performance against Aston Villa, but let's not forget Ollie Watkins had 2 big chances in that game. Ollie Watkins scored twice tonight against Everton. If Dominic Solanke gets those chances, I don't think there's a better game for him to kick off his Tottenham career in the Premier League than bagging a goal against Arsenal. Now, we'll move to Tottenham for a second. If Tottenham do not win this game, we would have had our worst start in the Premier League in something like 9 years. It's absolutely huge. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. 3 points is the minimum I want from Tottenham going forward. We haven't beaten a top 10 side since March. The last top 10 side we beat was Aston Villa. And the only two teams we've beaten from the top 10 since so the last 6 or 7 months, or even longer, 9 months, was Newcastle in December and Aston Villa in March. And our run against the top 6 or the big 6 is not exactly great. Last season, we got beaten at home and we drew with Arsenal away. We got beaten at home by City and we drew with City away. We got beaten at home and away by Chelsea. We beat Liverpool at home. We lost to Liverpool away. We beat Man United at home. We lost to Man United away. Our record away from home against the big 6, we've lost 7 in a row. So, or we haven't won in our last 7. And we're in a bit of a, in terms of results, a very up and down period. As you can see, drawing to Leicester, smashing Everton, and then losing to Newcastle. We were the better team in every single one of these games. More possession, more shots on target, more corners. We beat them in every single metric, these 3 teams, apart from we only got the win on one of those games. You know, we have some weaknesses in our system, which you would imagine Arsenal would try to exploit. And there is a blueprint out there from looking at this, not like taking my bias aside and looking at Tottenham. There is a blueprint out there on how you beat Tottenham. And what you have to do is sit back and counter-attack. And this is what Arsenal could do. If you think back to 2 seasons ago when Arsenal first beat us at the Lane in 9 years or so, they exactly did that. They were 2-0 up at half-time and they said, look, we're not going to go at you anymore. We're going to sit back and defend because we're happy to, and we're going to get you on the counter-attack. One of the goals Arsenal scored last season in the North London derby at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, or the Lane, whatever you prefer to call it, was from a counter-attack. Kai Havertz, long ball over the top, Bukayo Saka puts Ben Davies on his backside and makes it 2 or 3-0, whatever the score was then. So there is a blueprint out there from an Arsenal perspective on how to break down Tottenham. It just depends. What is going to be Arteta's game plan? When I was speaking to Babs on the Cannon podcast and when he come onto onto this channel, he said that the game plan will be to not go toe-to-toe with Tottenham because that midfield doesn't have the energy to get up and down. There's no Declan Rice. There's no Odegaard. Mikel Merino has not made an appearance yet in an Arsenal shirt. They don't exactly have a huge amount of options from a midfield perspective to come off the bench. Yes, Timber could play in there if the resources are stretched, which they are. Yes, Zinchenko could play in there. But you look at the bench against Brighton, they had a couple of options to bring on. You know, I don't necessarily think Ethan Nwaneri is going to start. I think he may be a bench option. There's a lot of questions about what's going to be the front 3. Does Raheem Sterling start? Who starts in the 10? And it is a little bit of a selection headache from an attacking it wide area position, Martinelli Trossard. That's a good headache for Arteta to have. But if Tottenham manage to get the 3 points, and I have predicted a 3-1 win, so I genuinely believe Tottenham will come out victorious, and I have got my chest out there. If we don't come back victorious, I think the pressure will mount massively for Ange Postecoglou. Massively. Because they can't beat us on our own patch 3 years in a row. They simply can't do that. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. That will be a disgrace. Since the 80s, they haven't beat us 3 times in a row. But it could happen. If we get another defeat, so we're starting the Premier League in 8 or 9 years. And we have got tough fixtures coming up. We start our League Cup campaign at home, away to Coventry. And when I was talking about make or break, it's make or break from both teams' perspectives. If we lose against Arsenal, right, we then go away to Coventry, who had a very good run on the domestic side of the competitions last year. They, of course, got to the FA Cup semi-final, narrowly losing to Manchester United in extra time. We then played Brentford, and Brentford took the game to Manchester City earlier. And City only narrowly beat them 2-1. They could have been 2-0 up in the first 20 minutes. They had a lot more possession, some big chances. We then play a Man United side that battered Southampton today, but their still performance levels aren't quite there. And in between all of that, we play our first game at home against Karabag in the Europa League. After that, we then play a Brighton side, a West Ham side, Villa, and Palace, with 2 other Europa League games. And if we get past Coventry, there would be the 4th round of the League Cup. So it's absolutely critical that Tottenham get 3 points here. Now, the question I asked, who needs the 3 points more? Is it Spurs or is it Arsenal? Tottenham cannot afford to have back-to-back defeats in the Premier League. If we were to have back-to-back defeats, we would be on 4 points from a possible 12. And we would currently be sitting, if Chelsea win tonight, and we would be sitting 13th in the league if Chelsea win tonight against Bournemouth, which you would imagine they've got a very good chance of doing so. So it's so important Tottenham go out and get the 3 points. From an Arsenal perspective, they cannot afford to be 5 points behind Manchester City after 4 games. This Manchester City side have got Erling Haaland up front, who is the best goal-scoring machine I think the Premier League has ever seen. Like, everyone was talking about how great Alan Shearer was of a goal scorer. This guy has already got 9 goals in the Premier League in 4 games. Manchester City have scored 11 goals, and he has got 9 of those. He has scored more individual goals than any other team has in the league. Liverpool have scored 7 goals. They're the second highest. Villa have scored 7 goals. Brighton have got 6. Nottingham Forest have got 4. Arsenal have got 5. Newcastle have got 5. Chelsea and Spurs have both got 6 and 7. This guy has got 9 on his own. So if they want to go and continue this run and push Manchester City to the very, very edge, they have to beat Spurs and they have to beat Manchester City. And I'm not a fan of saying they could throw a game away, but they could still qualify for they could quite easily play for a draw in Italy and maybe play a weakened team and play for a draw and then win their 4 home games. As long as you win your 4 home games and you pick up 2 draws and you only maybe get 1 defeat in the Champions League, Arsenal should be able to qualify for the next round of the Champions League. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans would take a draw at City, a draw at Atalanta and beating Spurs, or beating City, beating Spurs and getting a draw at Atalanta. And the momentum boost and the shift in mentality Arsenal would get from beating the likes of Manchester City would be absolutely enormous. Like, that Arsenal side would get huge boost from beating City. Now, is it make or break the next 7 days? Or you want to get off to a winning start in the Champions League? You play your arch rivals after 4 games, and you then go away to Manchester City. If you then look at the fixtures that are coming up towards, I think it's the middle of October. I think they play Newcastle, Inter Milan, and then they play Chelsea. I mean, look at this run of games Arsenal have got between 27th of October to the 3rd of December. They play West Ham away, a game they lost in the Cup last year, and West Ham beat them at the Emirates, but they battered them in the league away. Sporting, Victor Gyökeres, Arsenal fans will see live in the flesh. Inter Milan away, Chelsea away, Newcastle away, and Liverpool. That 4 games on the bounce for Arsenal between the 27th of October and the 10th of November is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. That is another make or break. You know, you either adapt or you perish in these sort of situations. You will find out if Arsenal have what it takes to go and take the league title again to the very, very end against Manchester City. Or are we going to see, and you've got to remember, Martin Odegaard could be out for 7 games or 8 games, which means he would miss Spurs, Atalanta, City, Bolton, Leicester, PSG, Southampton, and then he would miss Bournemouth. Like, their fixtures they've got coming up are absolutely horrendous. The only positive from an Arsenal perspective is if you play a lot of these teams away, Newcastle, Chelsea away. You know, the back end of the season, you then play all of those teams at home. So it swings and roundabouts. Their fixtures between the 1st of February and the 15th of March, they've got all of those tough reverse fixtures at home. Man United away, of course, but West Ham at home, City at home, Chelsea at home. You know, it's going to be a very interesting season. Is it make or break? It is, but there's also a lot of time left in this Premier League. And I am anticipating right now a very, 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 very interesting next 7 days. We'll have to wait and see. I am going to be live on the main channel for a watch along. There will be probably 5 things we learned or a few things we learned from the game. And there will be match reactions out on both channels, but it is make or break. I'm going to say it. They could come out of this with absolute roses, or they could come out of this with their hands, their head in their hands. It's 3 huge games. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you have subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. I am